Right before I start talking about pictures that I took during the game against Luke and his brother James, just want to say a massive thank you to both of them, Luke and James, for obviously having me down at their gaming club down in Southend. It was really fun game. They both made me feel really welcome. All the guys at the club were really good, and I definitely recommend if anyone in the UK that's willing to travel, or anyone in the the London area that watches Luke's channel, I definitely recommend them to get in touch with Luke and have a Challenger Scorpion game, or challenge his brother. Yeah, it was a real pleasure to play them, and I'm really glad that we finally managed to get a game. Hopefully, um, you know we might get another game, maybe either this year or next year. So that'd be quite good to look forward to. So I'll jump straight in with this first picture. I'm not going to go into detail the army selection and stuff because I've already gone over that in the my army selection video of what I took and why I took it. So obviously in this picture it's got a picture of my army. In the background you've got James's army, which is, as you can see, Imperial Guard. I can't quite remember what he had because there was a lot of Imperial Guard units that he had and that he took. So I definitely recommend watching Luke's video first, Striking Scorpion 82, his video first. His video will go into a more in-depth armor list of what James took for the Imperial Guard and what Luke took for his Dark Eldar. So yeah, that's basically my first picture. Second picture will be just another half of the army of what I took, just a little close up of what I took. Again, I'm not going to go into it because there's no point, because I've already gone over it in the a previous video, the part 1. Third picture is exactly this, the other half of the army. Just it all together looks looks quite nice and quite imposing, really. Right, this picture we'll go into what Luke took. I'll just start off by saying I really like Luke's army. Watching Luke's battle reports on his channel are what made me definitely bite the bullet basically and start collecting Dark Eldar. I've always liked the army, and watching the way Luke built his army and painted them, it just definitely inspired me to do them myself. So I'll quickly go over what he took. Obviously he took Reavers. I think he took 9 Reavers, 3 Caltrops in the Reavers, which is a really good choice. It's pretty much what I took. He took Venom with 4 Incubi, a Clavex and an Archon in there. Really good combination. I've seen it work well. It's worked well on his channel before, and I've seen it work well in other games as well. Exactly the same on the other squad: 4 Incubi, Clavex, Archon in a Venom. I think both Venoms have got the extra cannon. Archons are armed with Shadow Field, Agonizer, Haywire Grenade, I think, something like that. 4 Scourge. I think he only took 2 Haywire Blasters. I think that was a bit. I think there was a couple of bits of criticism that I would have against, obviously, things that were in Luke's army. I'd definitely have 4 Haywire Blasters rather than 2, for the simple fact that you've got the option there. I'd definitely maximise it. I think the reason why Luke actually only took 2 was probably not a points thing, possibly a models thing. I don't know whether he had actually 4 models with like Haywire Blasters. So he obviously, because he only had 2, he took 2. But yeah, Haywire Blaster Scourge is a solid choice in any Dark Eldar army. Going across the other side, the Hellions. Now, if you've seen any of my reviews on the Dark Eldar at all, you'll know that I really do like the Hellion models. But the rules in this, this new edition for the Dark Eldar, it's just they're just not a competitive unit, really. I mean, they're like witches, but worse because they haven't got the dodge. If they had a dodge, that would be brilliant. Or if they even had, maybe if they started off with Feel No Pain straight off the bat, something like that, or they're able to, I don't know. Rules wise, they just really, they really are naff. I keep giving him a lot of stick. I do comment on a lot of his videos, and whenever he uses Dark Eldar, I always give him some jip really about him using his Hellions, swapping them out. taking something a bit more worthwhile, maybe another scourge unit, or maybe some racks, or or even some grotesques. Model wise, like I said, they are really nice, but there's a very, very hard line to to cross when you're using them. They're quite an awkward unit to use. They're very, very much a glass unit. I can't even class them as a glass cannon because combat wise they're not as good as witches. Shooting wise, they're probably not even as good as Carbonite Warriors because of the range. Obviously they've got assault 2 guns, but with only range 18, you've got to be close, and obviously if you're too close, the enemy can then assault you, and you're not really that great in combat. Maybe when Dark Eldar have a new codex, I don't know, maybe next year or a couple of years. I mean, codexes are coming out thick and fast these days, so it might be sooner than we think. I can see that unit getting some love when it's redone. Okay, at the back we've got a Ravager, obviously with 3 dot lances. Again, solid choice, well worth its points. Unfortunately, if you've seen the battle report already on Luke's channel, the kind of just whiff. Me and Luke were just rolling terrible for hits and for penetrations. So they usually do good, but me and Luke just had terrible luck. Next time, you've obviously got 2 raiders with 2 lots of witches. I think the witches are armed with a Hecatrix for the sergeants, and they're armed with Haywire grenades and agonizers. They're a solid combat unit really for the Dark Eldar. Sorry. They're able to get into combat, stay in combat with the dodge. The downside is obviously the save, so getting that feel no pain up is quite important really. I think they performed quite well really. And then right at the top corner is the Talos. Now I really, really do like the Talos. I like the model. I like the rules. The only downside is because of the scenario we were playing, it was coming on from reserve. So obviously it was just having to trundle up the battlefield from turn 2, and I don't actually think it took any part in the game. From what I think, I don't even think it did anything. I think it just literally turned up and floated up the battlefield really. I think all of Luke's run moves were average, 2s, 3s, 4s. It never really played a part in the game. Obviously in some of Luke's other games it plays quite a good part, tying up dreadnoughts and tying up units and taking quite a lot of fire, being in toughness 7, 3 up save with feel no pain as well. So in this game it didn't really perform as well as it should have done, but that's just the scenario that we play. Off camera here, he has got obviously his Void Raven and his Razor Wing Jet Fighter, which both performed quite well really. So we'll go on to the next one. Right, in this picture we've got some of James's Imperial Guard, obviously behind a sand bunker. Yeah, I think so. Just like standard guard, you know, they're always best behind cover, taking pot shots and stuff. They're supported by chimeras and stuff behind them. Then behind that is a quite a large bunker. In that bunker, I think there's literally a large squad, a heavy weapon squad. Off camera, there is squats. I think, yeah, quite a large unit of squat snipers. Not squat snipers, sorry, rattling snipers. No, we don't say squats in 40k anymore. I think G-Dub killed them all off. But yeah, I just took this picture just because it, looked like quite a cinematic, just quite a cinematic picture really. Next, we've got literally part of the setup. I was only taking pictures on my phone for the simple fact that I didn't have a chance to pack my camera. So yeah, I couldn't really get a massive amount in. So on this deployment zone, this is it looks like a bit of Luke's and a little bit of mine. So starting right from the bottom, I think that's my raider. Me and Luke kind of decided that we'd have Luke's force on one part and then my force on another part, but because I had so much stuff, because obviously I took 3,000 points and Luke only took 2. I ended up having to put a raider with Luke's lot, So I've got one of my lonely raiders surrounded by one of my red raiders surrounded by all of Luke's blue stuff. So yeah, this was literally the battle line as all the raiders, venoms, and Reaver jet bikes turned up. And then we've got the top end of the top corner of the board. This is all my Dark Eldar turning up on the basically on the top half. So you've got the jet bikes, all the raiders. I think both of the Ravagers, no, one Ravager, and the other Ravagers next to the top end of the statue, which is just in that bottom corner there. Basically, what we planned on doing is getting on the board, because we moved on the board, so we moved up to 12 inches, because obviously everything's a fast skimmer. So that was our first movement phase. So we kind of had to, move on and then shoot, and then hopefully survive so we can move up again. But I think Luke turbo boosted or moved flat out with a lot of his stuff. I did with quite a few of my units, jet bikes, but they moved up. They turbo boosted up. I think a lot of the Venoms kind of stayed back and took pot shots with their range, obviously 36-inch range for their heavy splinter cannons. And then you've got the Dark Lancers and the Ravagers. They were taking pot shots at tanks that were close enough. They didn't move up massive amounts, because obviously this is now turn 2, so we've only got a 6+ feel no pain. I didn't want to commit anything too soon without that 5+ feel no pain, because although it's from 6+ to a 5+, it is a massive difference. Then the next picture we've got the centre of the field, centre of the field. So that is literally pretty much all raiders there. There's a couple of Venoms. Talos sat at the back there, bless him. He might as well have just gone home, really, because I don't really think he did anything. So yeah, that was literally us turning up on the board, really. Right, and then from turn 2, because obviously it was an Apocalypse game, everything just turned up. I think that's the way that we decided for the scenario, because it was an Apocalypse game. Just literally all your reserves, all your deep striking units turn up if you can fit them on. So basically James was at a slight disadvantage because he was only able to bring his tanks on from the roads. If you can see behind this Chimera that's literally on the edge of the board, that is one of the entrance points. So as a squadron of tanks turned up, he was only able to get 2 wide, so obviously move them on 6 inches, 2 wide, and then he had to have one at the back, so he couldn't actually get another squad on behind it. So he was literally bringing on one squad from this side and then one squad from the opposite side of the board. So that was obviously a squad from one side, a squad from the other side, and then if he couldn't fit any other squads on, they had to then come on in the next turn. So although that was a slight disadvantage to him, I even think at the end of the game he still had actually a squad of, and I'm going to get this wrong anyway, but is it the Vanquishers? A squad of Vanquishers, maybe? The Demolishers? Maybe a squad of Demolishers. They literally just didn't turn up because as we were blowing vehicles up eventually, he was unable to get models on. But either way, I won't spoil anything too much if you've not seen it, which I think you will. In fact, I will spoil it because most people here would have hopefully already seen the battle report on Luke's channel. Me and Luke lost a hell of a lot of models quite early on, and throughout the rest of the battle, really, we kind of took a bit of a beating. It was because it was an objective game. We concentrated on objectives, but we lost a hell of a lot of models. The paper thin raiders and venoms and ravagers and flyers just got absolutely blasted by the Imperial Guard. Heavy gunnery. If it was kill points, we would have been absolutely hammered. But luckily it was objective game. Like I say, because it was turn 2, everything just turns up. So here we've got Luke's Scourges turning up on top of the bunker. I think they actually scattered on top of the bunker. I think a couple of them died. Maybe did a couple of them die? No, none of them died actually. They scattered on top of the bunker. He took his dangerous terrain test and they all passed. They're in quite a good position there to shoot at either the Chimera, for two haywire blasts on the Chimera, or he's got 3 other normal guys there with the shredder carbines, so that would be 9 shots against the unit that they're facing. Either way, it's quite a deadly combination, really quite a good combination. In the next picture, sorry, we've got my deep strikes. The Archon surrounded by looks like the 3 witches. They are my 3 Medusas. I think I positioned them in slightly the wrong angle. The Medusa that's closest to, I suppose, closest to the red barrels, I kind of positioned her in an awkward angle, because she was only if I positioned her better, she'd have been able to cover more Imperial Guard with the flame template as she arrived. But this is before the flame templates hit. All 3 Medusas produce 1 flame template that's strength 4 AP3, so no cover save for these conscripts. So these literally got blasted by the flamers. It is a deadly combination. I think I have got another Medusa on my painting table at the minute, so that'll be 4. That could be a potential 4 flame templates. So no cover save, strength 4 AP3. It'd just be deadly. So he turned up there. He was, like I said in the my part 1 video when I was going through the army list and stuff, he's armed with a webway portal, so he doesn't scatter. So I just literally put him down where I want, doesn't scatter, and I think Luke and James were quite surprised at that, because I know Luke used to use the old webway portals, excuse me, where he used to be able to throw them, and obviously it would create that dome, that webway dome, and then things could move on from that webway dome. And since the rules changed, he never used it. He never used a webway portal. But obviously now you just place a model with a webway portal, and they just don't scatter, which is very, deadly. Really, it's pinpoint accuracy, deep strike, really. And then next to them, you've got my huge unit of grotesques, 8 grotesques with the Archon in the middle. Again, I just decided to put him down there, surrounded by all of his grotesques, right in the thick of the fight. Really, they've got a massive unit of conscripts there. They've got the other unit of Imperial Guard just behind that, them tank traps and barrels and ammo crates there. The bunker, which is going to be basically the prime target for them. There was heavy units on top of that. There was his HQ. There was his unit of Ogrins. There was another objective. This was his command bunker as well. So I think he had, is it Creed? If you put him in a bunker, his commands have a larger radius, I think, or something like that. That's a part. I don't know whether that's his rules or a formation rules or whatever. So I definitely wanted to put my HQ in there and his unit against. Obviously, James is, basically cutting this, the head off the snake kind of thing. So yeah, they turn up there, which I was really happy about. Then we've got my unit of Scourge here at the back. These guys, I think Luke tried to put me off the idea of putting them here, because if they scattered, there was so much possibility for mishap here. On the Bane Blade, on the unit, in dangerous terrain, off the board. It basically, if they were going to scatter, they could be, they could be lost, kind of thing. And I was like, nah, they'll be fine. And luckily, they were fine. I don't even think they scattered at all. I think when I rolled the dice, it was cocked dice, and it was a scatter of like 4 inches. Luckily, it was classed as cocked, so I had to re-roll it, so they hit. So yeah, they're definitely going to be taking shots at the Bane Blade with their haywire blasters there. Then in this picture, I've got my outflanking mine's gone blank, mandrakes, unit of 8 outflanking mandrakes. Luke was really surprised that I took these, for the simple fact that no one ever takes them. I think I've seen Scarred Cast take them. I think you usually see him take a small unit of 5, but I decided to take a unit of 8. I have got 10 painted up, but I only had enough points to take 8. And I was really glad that we took these, because you can't see it because the tank's in the way, but there is a objective behind that tank, and there was no way on this earth that we were going to be able to get that objective unless we had an outflanking unit, and I was so happy that I took an outflanking unit. So without that ant-flanking unit, we'd have never have got that objective. And if you've seen the game, it was because of these guys stealth shrouded in a ruined building. 2+ cover save. They just literally just things were just bouncing off the cover. They were just literally phasing in and out of the shadows, and they were dragging the poor. I think it was the Master of Ordnance was their objective that they was able to basically drag about. So in that building you've got, I think there was actually 2 squads. There was 2 squads in that building, and you've got. I'm not even going to pretend I know what this tank is in front of it. I know it's a Forge World tank. Someone can comment and let me know what it is, because I really can't remember what it was called. And then obviously in the building opposite, you've got, I think there was 2 full units in there, heavy weapon team on top. In front of the building was a Chimera and a few other tanks as well. So literally them mandrakes are right in the thick of it, more so than the grotesques were. And these guys, did really, really well. Hats off to them. I'd definitely be taking these guys again. 2 shots each. Strength 4. Soul Blaze as well. So these guys are literally setting fire to Imperial Guard as they're going by. I think at one point James decided to go to ground, because I was shooting at them, and it was quite important at the time. So he decided to go to ground, and then I decided to charge in, and because he'd gone to ground, we were attacking simultaneous, for the simple fact that mandrakes don't have any grenades or anything. I think I let James go first, and all of his attacks just whiffed. So obviously all the Imperial Guard are carrying on the floor, seeing these demons come out of the shadows and stuff, and as they're carrying on the floor, these guys are just literally walking by, slitting all the throats. It was quite funny to see, really, because like I say, James's attacks whiffed, just literally bounced off nothing, and my mandrakes walked in and they literally killed. I think they must have killed about 6 or 7 guardsmen, and the rest just ran away. And then the mandrakes chased them down and wiped them out to the man. That's when I got hold of the objective. Definitely really do rate the mandrakes. Right, in this picture I've got the flyers, the air support coming back on the board. Obviously they were on the board in turn 1. They turned up, shot stuff, and then flew off the board, so they weren't getting shot at all the time. So this is their second turn that they've actually turned up. They turned up and they shot a lot of stuff. Obviously you can see all the smoke here around Luke's stuff, and I actually really felt sorry for Luke here, because I don't know whether James was just being polite because I was a guest, but James was pretty much picking on his brother. A lot of firepower came it Luke. The Bane Blade, both Bane Blades open up, or the Storm Sword, with Apocalyptic Blast, just literally decimated a big 7-inch hole in Luke's army. And because it ignored cover, there was no point jinking, so it was strength 10. I think it was strength 10, AP 1, ignored cover, or it might be AP 2. Sorry, ignored cover. But again, there was no point in jinking, so literally all the transports that were there just got literally obliterated. So it was a good job that these flyers turned up. Literally a good job that they turned up when they did. You can see Luke's Incubi that were assaulting the Chimera. They blew that up quite happily on the rear armour. They've got witches around it as well, so there'll be plenty of haywire going in there as well. And the next picture we've got just a bit more of a centralised picture there. So you've got both Void Raven bombers screaming up the battlefield towards the Baneblade right at the back. Not the one that's on the road, there's one that's hiding just behind the corner there. And we've got my grotesques literally going to work on that unit that was at the foot of the bunker. So they're moving in there to basically clear it out, I suppose. I got my witches next to the grotesques. They I think they whiffed on their leadership test, and then they just fled for the majority of the game, which was a bit disappointing, really. Then we've got what's left of the conscripts, and then my Incubi charged in there, and I was really disappointed with this. My Incubi charged in. I think James issued a challenge with his I think it was a Lord Commissar actually, and I decided, yeah, I'll accept that with my Clavex, no problem. And I thought to myself, I'm quids in here. I think I can take on a Commissar quite happily. I think he even rolled a 3 on his rampage, a 5 on rampage. Sorry, so I got an extra 3 attacks. But he was just really lucky rolling for his. Is it Scatterfield or is that the Eldar thing? Basically, the thing that gave him a 5 up invulnerable save, and he actually killed my Clavex. I was proper wounded, and my Incubi were just literally in that grind fest of conscripts because they were stubborn. I mean, I kept winning the combat by 1 or 2, but because they were stubborn on a 10, I just couldn't break them, and I wasn't causing enough damage to kill them. I should have charged the grotesques in really and just wiped them out. And then I've got all of my venoms and raiders and stuff literally sitting around on that flank. Got the raiders up front with the Dark Lancers shooting at vehicles, the Ravagers there on the side as well shooting at vehicles, and behind them I've got my Venoms. I think I had 4 or 5 Venoms sat at the back there, literally pinning everything that was in that bunker, or not pinning, sorry, making sure everything went to ground. So yeah, they having a bit of a fire support like that. So you got your heavy weapons up front. I know it should be heavy weapons at back, pinning weapons at the front, but I had it the opposite way around at the time because all of the tanks were at the back of the board. But either way, it worked quite well, really. This is the picture of the Incubi being swarmed by the Imperial Guard there. I think did I have 3 left there? Yeah, 3 left there. It was just a really poor choice of target. I should have paid attention really when it came to realising that these guys were stubborn. If I knew that these guys were stubborn, I definitely wouldn't have charged the Incubi in, or I'd have supported them with the witches. But you live and learn. Then at the back of this picture there, you've got the Archon that was moving up with the witches because obviously he had a haywire grenade. He was moving up there to support them with the tanks because I think there was a convoy of tanks up there as well at the time. And this next picture, this is a convoy of tanks. Here you've got the Chimera, Punisher. Then at the back of that, I think there's more Chimeras at the back there. So I needed to get these witches into combat. Because I think by this point, turn 3, I think they had Furious Charge. So they're all strength 4, so they would have been able to glance it. But the Hecatrix had Haywire Grenade, and the Archon had Haywire Grenade. So I was intending on throwing a Haywire Grenade and then charging it in combat, which I'm pretty sure you can do that. If not, leave a comment and let me know, because I'm still learning. No, I'm not learning 40k. I'm getting used to this new edition. Then you got the grotesques in there, basically shoving their way through the door of that bunker to get in the top. You see the Ogrins there, waiting for them to come up the stairs and hopefully, clob them to death with their is it stub guns or something like that. Anyway, this picture was just a picture of the full board. Really, literally, I was stood right at the back with the flyers come on. I thought it'd look quite a cinematic shot, really, with the flies coming up, and you see the grotesques bursting through the door of that bunker. See my Reaver jet bikes on top. They've wiped out a heavy bolter unit there. And then you've got the Ogrins on the corner, so the grotesques will be moving up through that building to engage the Ogrins and hopefully take the objective that was there. And on Luke's side, he's that convoy of tanks. He's working his way up that convoy of tanks with all of his haywire grenades from the witches. His Archons have got haywire grenades. His Hellions finally turned up. I think the first time he brought them on, they mishapped and they went back into reserves. And then they turned up the following turn, but they scattered where away from where he wanted them to turn up. I think he wanted them to turn up on top of the bunker, but instead they scattered off and at the bottom, right in front of the tank, so they couldn't actually shoot at anything really. I mean, there was a unit in front of them, which I think they did shoot at, and maybe caused one wound, and they decided to go to ground, because I think that's why, obviously that one base is turned upside down. But yeah, really did think this was, quite a good picture really, from the Imperial Guard point of view. And then the final, I think this is the final picture yet, before we were having to obviously hurry, speed the game up a little bit, because time was ticking, because I was on a time limit because I had to travel home. And then literally I've got, it's slightly blurry, obviously got the mandrakes there, cleared out the entire building, and literally things were just turning round to shoot it. All the turrets were turning to fire at them, and they were just 2+ cover saves all the way. I was really lucky with these guys. Even though 2+ cover, sometimes a wound would go through, and obviously with the 5+ feel no pain, it was just such a big help. So that's it for the game that I had against Luke, or had with Luke, and against his brother James. Hopefully there'll be another meeting where I meet up with Luke again and James, and we have another game. So fingers crossed, and hopefully we get that sorted sometime soon. So that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. It really does. I always say it, but it really does help the channel. It is just starting off, but everyone's got to start somewhere, I suppose. So keep up all the good work with all your guys, what you're doing at home and stuff, what you're doing in your hobby desks. So happy geeking. Toodaloo.